In mid-March, COVID restrictions and business closings began throughout the tri-state area, but did more people staying and working from home during March and April impact local crime rates? Our Katie Koppel dug through the data to see if the quarantine helped quell crime.
Like healthcare workers and grocery store clerks, police officers continued to keep their community safe during the COVID-19 shutdown. But while people were spending more time at home and businesses were closed, did that lead to a drop or rise in crime?
We were curious to see how the shutdown in the quarantine would affect crime rates as well as many other departments.
The Sioux City Police Department tracks reported crimes, and Sergeant Jeremy McClure helped me sift through the data for the first 7 months of the year.
We speculated that we would possibly see an increase in domestic violence.
According to the data, those numbers didn't rise, but they didn't fall either.
We anticipated possibly seeing an increase in disturbances and domestic assaults because a lot of times when people are stuck in a place together, that's when our interpersonal conflicts come out, and we'll see some more fights and arguments and stuff like that.
The department responded to an average of 36 domestic violence calls each month, with the highest number of calls coming in August, the lowest in February. Their most frequent calls are considered disturbances, with no clear pattern to establish a rise or drop during quarantine. But there were 2 areas where the Sioux City Police Department did see a significant decrease during the shutdown period.
As we entered in the quarantine mid-March, we saw some of the numbers, such as the residential burglaries and the thefts and the shoplifting, start to decrease. And then once we were in the heart of quarantine in the April timeframe, this is when we saw a huge impact on a lot of these property crimes.
The department went from responding to between 20 and 30 residential burglaries each month to just 5 in April.
That was nice to see that decrease as well, because it's a huge violation to have your house burglarized, and it just really destroys people when their sanctuary, their sanctum has been violated by somebody and their stuff stolen like that.
There wasn't a rise in business burglaries either, just a slight drop in March and April.
A lot of officers were out working pretty hard during the night to try to curtail a lot of that, so hopefully we were able to have some effect on that.
There was one other crime that saw a drop.
And then the other thing that kind of surprised us was a decrease in OWIs, or drunk drivers, that we've arrested during the shutdown.
54 arrests were made in February, dropping to 24 in March, and just 19 in April. When bars and restaurants began reopening in May, 34 were arrested.
During the shutdown, the rates dramatically decreased, and then as people have come out of quarantine and we've gotten into the summer, the rates have shot up.
When asked about violent assaults like shootings and stabbings, McClure says the city hasn't seen a noticeable increase, but states that it's a concern regardless.
We want to see those reduced because, one, it's extremely dangerous for people to be shooting off firearms in the city and not taking account for those rounds. So we've been very lucky that someone innocent hasn't been hit, and that we haven't had more serious injuries come out of a lot of these assaults.
McClure says these numbers are just preliminary and may be slightly different than what is officially reported to the FBI at the end of the year, which will give a clearer picture on if the shutdown had any impact on local crime.
With crime, it's tough to say one thing's causing it. There's a lot of different factors that affects crime rates, and we try to address a lot of those as much as we can, and also educate the public what they can do to protect themselves and help reduce crime rates.
In Sioux City, Katie Koppel, Siouxland News.
And to see our full breakdown of the preliminary data, you can visit this story on our website, SiouxlandNews.com. There you can also see our extended interview with Sergeant McClure on crime rates in Sioux City, including the recent graffiti and vandalism of local landmarks. Larry.
Sioux City isn't the only local community seeing a drop in crime. South Sioux City also seeing a drop in crime in many areas as well. Now, when comparing the first 8 months of this year to last year, assaults went down by half, from 40 reported assaults to 20 this year. Thefts and burglaries also decreased, and calls for domestic assaults, they also declined in South Sioux.
Domestic assaults, which I guess a person would think if you're crammed together they would go up. However, they went down from 113 down to 86. The trend has been down, and that was our numbers from January to September. So January through September 2019 were compared to 2020.
There were some areas in South Sioux City where crime rates did increase slightly, one being DUIs, which is Nebraska's equivalent of Sioux City's OWI. Chief Mahon says the city has had 71 DUIs this year compared to 58 the same period last year. Meehan says overall, the drop in numbers has been good to see.
I think our numbers basically have gone down, which is really a good thing, no matter what causes it. A couple of things, some things have gone up, but for the most part they're down. I really don't have a magic ball to tell us why, but they did. And you can surmise a lot of things, but it was gratifying to see. Anytime you see a decrease, it's a good thing.
Now, to see a full breakdown of the data from South Sioux City, you can visit this story on our website, that's SiouxLandNews.com.